Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. It's a pretty decent sized week, a lot bigger than last week. Last week was so tiny. I haven't seen a tiny week like that in a long, long time. So let's just get going on this. First up, we have The Batman First Night, written by Dan Jurgens, with artwork by Mike Perkins. So this takes place in 1939. It's post World War One. And it's really the beginning of, Batman's career. And what's happening in Gotham is that city councilmen are being murdered. And Commissioner Gordon's, they're trying to figure out what's going on. People say that there's these monsters and stuff. So Bruce, because Gotham's kind of deteriorating and everything, he's just become Batman. So it's very early in the mythos. So, he doesn't have the Batmobile and he has kind of limited, utility belt stuff. So what it is he discovers, the monsters, because they're attacking another councilman. And so he's able to get a fingerprint and he finds out, he gets a hold of Commissioner Gordon, and they find out that this fingerprint's from a dead person who was electrocuted in prison. So there's that kind of going on. So basically, you have these monsters, but they're dead people and they're alive, and it's it's really interesting what Jurgens has done here with the story. I really like how it's set in that early Batman period where he's just kind of learning how to be Batman in a way, and the really big win for this book, beyond it's a really good story, is Mike Perkins' artwork. He recently did the Swamp Thing with Ram V, and this is just really a gorgeous book, and his style just really fits this era of Batman. It kind of it has a noir feel to it, and just gritty. It's really a great looking book, and it's really a good story. I'm really impressed. I mean, for me, Dan Jurgens is, he can be hot and cold. This is probably one of the best things I've actually read from him in quite a while. It's just a really solid story, and I like the fact that it's kind of raw and kinetic Batman. It's just like his early period. He doesn't have a lot of gadgets and stuff like that, so it's really just kind of back to basic story, and that's what I really liked about it. So definitely a must-buy comic this week. Next up, we have Ultimate X-Men #1, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. This takes place obviously in Japan. Hisako Ashiki she's a teenage girl, and a friend of hers, Tsubasa, he committed suicide because he was being bullied and everything. So this ghost or whatever, or demon, goes to her and kind of blames her for not helping him and everything, and she ultimately is given an Omari, which is a charm, and what it is it kind of protects her. So there's like a force field or a creature that ultimately comes around her and protects her. It's really, I mean, this is very much a Peach Momoko story of X-Men. I think what I liked about it is, in a weird way, it feels like X-Men, but it kind of doesn't. And, that's of course Momoko. It's definitely a very mythology heavy story, which I really like. And of course her artwork is just really gorgeous. Her use of color is amazing and everything. And I also like that, it kind of has to do with mythology and stuff like that. So, once again, this first issue's, really kind of setting everything up, but it really gives you a feel of what she wants to do with her world of X-Men. And I really liked it a lot. It's definitely, like, the irony right now, it's not so much X-Men, but I can see what she's doing with, the theory of X-Men. And, it really is quite good. I was very impressed. It's very different and unique, and that's what I really liked about it. So that's another one that's definitely a must-buy this week. Next up, we have The Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution. Number one, written by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, with artwork by Isu and Isaac Escora and Ben Bishop. So now this is a sequel to The Last Ronin. Now there was a prequel that was done, but this is an actual real sequel to that original Last Ronin story. Now this takes place 10 years later, and the gangs, the Foot Clan has been defeated, but gangs are, trying to take control of the city. And so what it is Casey Marie, the daughter of April, leads, kind of like, I guess you could almost say resistance in a way, but, they're protecting the city. They're trying to get the city, back to, after the Foot Clan practically destroyed the whole city, or and ran it into the ground. So her and like the resistance are trying to rebuild the city. And so what it is basically, I guess you could say, almost the children of the original Turtles. They're still in training. They haven't been used, and towards the end of this issue, they actually, Casey needs them on a mission, so they kind of come out, and we learn a little bit about them. There is the one good thing I will definitely give Walt and Eastman. They do kind of give a history of what happened in the previous Last Ronin story that sets up this, which is good. So if you've read that, it's a little bit of a rehash, but I appreciate it, because there's a possibility a new reader might not have actually read that story. So they give you all you need to know to get going with this story, and I don't think it disrupts it too bad, and I think they do it in a nice way. The artwork by Escoras and Bishop is nice, does the job and everything. I wouldn't say I liked it as much as The Last Ronin, because that was really kind of refreshing and everything, but I think I definitely like this better than the prequel. I thought the prequel was just really okay and not really particularly necessary. It was okay for what it was. It just didn't, after The Last Ronin, I just felt it was a bit of a step down for me. But this definitely, builds upon what the story is in The Last Ronin. So if you're a fan of Last Ronin, I think you'll like it. If you haven't read it, I really think you should read The Last Ronin. It's quite good. But I think it's worth checking out this week. Next up, we have What If Aliens, number one, written by Hans Rodenoff and Adam Goldberg, with artwork by Guillermo Villanova. So this is based on an idea by Paul and Leon Reiser. What it is Carter Burke. Basically, the story is, what if he lived and he didn't actually die on the planet? So it really takes the story from Aliens and kind of gives it a twist. And so what it is he gets back to the ship and everything, and then he contacts the Wayland company, and they're really unhappy that he isn't bringing his xenomorph back. And so what it is they send him to this other planet, but they're going to tell his family that he was killed and everything. But he makes a deal with them to take care of his wife and kid. And so when he goes back to this planet, he kind of has like a, basic 9 to 5, average, job and everything that the company has given him, just to survive. And so at the end of the issue, it's, that somebody brings him this alien egg. Once again, I think the idea was good. I think the idea was good. It just kind of felt okay. In the end, after I read this, it's like, is this a story from Aliens that I really need? I don't know. Like I said, I didn't hate it, but it didn't overwhelm me at all. The story's okay. It just, like I said, I don't know that it was necessary. I think that's kind of it. I don't know there was enough, it has good concept, but I don't know if the execution quite lived up to the idea. The artwork by Villanova is nice and everything. I think it's okay. Even if you're a big Aliens fan, I would definitely kind of look through it and see what you think, but it didn't overwhelm me too much. Next up, we have the Last Mermaid, number one, by Derek Kirk Kim. reading the backstory, that Kim was worked in the animation industry, and you can really tell that from the artwork. And so what this is it's about this mermaid who lives in this robot body but the dome is filled with water because obviously she needs to breathe water, and she has pet Lottie. It's like a tadpole thing, and so what it is the water has to be, she has to find more water, and that's kind of hard because it's a post-apocalyptic Earth. And so she's trying to find water because the water ultimately becomes contaminated, so you have to kind of renew it. And so really the first issue is her, trying to find water and struggling with the robot, the body being damaged. It's really kind of a setup thing. It's definitely, I think it's got some good ideas. The art is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, but just beware that this is kind of a real setup issue. I think it shows a lot of promise. I like it. It's really heavy exposition for this first issue. But overall, I think it's a good idea and everything. And like I said, once again, the artwork is gorgeous. So I think it's worth checking out. We'll kind of see where that second issue goes story-wise. I like the setup, but we'll have to kind of see where Kim is going to take that story. But I think it's well worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Shazam number 9, written by Mark Waid, with artwork by Emanuela Lupacchino. So really, the story is, Superman teams up with the Creeper, and so what it is the Shadow Thief is kidnapped some people, and they're on this train, and they basically have to save them. It's a very simple story, but what really makes it, I mean, I love what Wade's doing with Shazam. I'm really in love with this book. But what I love about this is the yin and yang of like Billy and Jack Ryder, the Creeper. It's like they kind of, Billy kind of hates him, but he has to kind of work with him. There's just a lot of like really great humor in it, and I won't spoil anything, but there's some really funny stuff with Metamorpho. That's all I'm gonna say. But I really, once again, I really dig this book a lot. Mark Waid really understands, Billy Batson being Shazam. He's a kid trapped in like Superman's body. I really am enjoying this book a lot. Lupacchino's artwork is really good. I mean, we all miss Dan Mora, he's really fast, but apparently he can't really draw 2 books a month. But they've had some really good artists, and Lupacchino, I think, has done a really, really nice job on this. Once again, I'm a fan of the Creeper. Anytime they can bring the Creeper back is always a win. I love this book. I think it's worth buying every month. I really dig it. So once again, it's still worth buying this week. Or this month, even. Next up, we have the Spectacular Spider-Man number 1, written by Greg Weisman with artwork by Humberto Ramos. So this is, kind of a good jumping on point for new readers. So what it is it's a team up of Peter and Miles. Miles is thinking about going to college, so Peter's kind of, taking him around the campus to show him around. And what it is while they're there, the Jackal, is loose and they have to try to, defeat him. But where I struggle with this book was the way that Weisman really set up the time. He does time jumps where you have the current, where Peter and Miles are fighting the Jackal, but there's also like earlier in the day, later in the day, and then there's like meanwhile with like other characters and other stories. And as with, I've always said this with like film, you have to be careful when you do time jumps. Because, part of the thing is it kind of can make the story overall uneven, which it kind of does here. But the other problem is I get that Weisman is setting up other stories with the meanwhile and other things going on, not necessarily the present and, later in the day and earlier in the day. That's not the problem. I think the problem is he introduces these other things and it's like, well, that's nice, but you broke up the story for something I have no idea what it means now. and that's fine, but it's almost like, I'm only reading the first chapter. It's like, I get that you're going to do things later in the chapter, but you've kind of ruined the flow of this first chapter by breaking it up that way. So it really, and then at the end of the day, it's just an okay story. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just okay. And for, once again, for a new reader, this book is perfectly fine. And I think you would like it if you're not like a regular, comic Spider-Man reader. But I think, once again, if you're a regular comic reader, you have to, like, there's so many Spider-Man books, there's so many comics that come out. You have to, like, this has to be better than average. And unfortunately, it's not, story-wise. On the plus side, you have Humberto Ramos's artwork, which is absolutely gorgeous. He's a great artist. But it's just, it really, unfortunately, is kind of, as good as the artwork is, it's just kind of sunk by a very average story. And, like I said, it's just kind of ultimately average, and that's where I struggle with it. I don't think it's terrible. It's just average. Next up, we have Night People #1, written by Chris Condon, with artwork by Brian Level, and it's based on the novel by Barry Gifford. So what this is these two women who have recently been paroled, Big Betty Stalcup and Miss Cutie Early, are basically on a mission to purify the world of, because the males are evil. So it's kind of like the women are, out to, purify and kill men because they're ruining everything. And that's the basic setup. The unfortunate thing with this book is, I think Condon made the mistake of, whenever you adapt a book, a book works in a certain way. Like when I buy a novel, I read the first chapter, and guess what? The second, third, all the chapters are there in the book. With the comic, you don't get that because, like, let's say this is the first chapter of the book. Well, it's really kind of, if he's following the book, this is fine because I can turn the page and get to chapter 2. This one, at the end of the book, there's no more pages to turn. And I think that's kind of part of the problem, that he may have been a little too slavish to the book, and it doesn't work as well for a comic. And I think that, I think there's some interesting ideas, but it's just kind of like that this first issue is just kind of all over the place with the story. And once again, with it being every 30 days, that doesn't work well as a comic. And I tend to see that with, like, writers that are novel writers, where they don't understand, they'll write like a first chapter like this, but they don't understand it's going to be at least 30 days before the next chapter. It's not, once again, you don't turn the page. So that's where I really struggle with this. It was really kind of, for me, very disjointed as a comic. Level's artwork's nice, does the job, but unfortunately, like I said, it's just so chaotic and disjointed for me that I just didn't really care for it. Next up, we have Torpedo 1972, #1. Written by Enrique Sanchez Abuli, with artwork by Eduardo Risso. So this is, Lucas Torelli is Torpedo, and this journalist is writing a story about the Caputo family, and so what it is it's many years later after what the events that has happened in Torpedo's early days, kind of the mob days. And what's interesting is setting it in 1972, which is the year of The Godfather. So they kind of bring that into the story and everything. And what it is even though Torpedo's much older, he's still kind of, this journalist coming and talking about the past has kind of triggered him back into, like, kind of his old self, and that's the basic setup here. I mean, once again, the Torpedo books are really interesting. But unfortunately, releasing it as a monthly thing, I don't know that quite works as well. The Torpedoes have always been complete graphic novels. I did like this. It's just like the first chapter. So I think this is going to be one of those books that probably just wait until the collection of the whole story comes out. I think it's just going to read better that way, because that's the Torpedo stories have always been like that. But I will say I did enjoy it. Rissa's artwork is really good. He's just a great artist, and I like it being set in 72. It gives it a very different feel from the other Torpedoes, but very much similar at the same time. It's just a time difference. But I think it's worth checking out, but I would say I would wait for the complete story to be finished on that one. And finally, this week we have Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries #3, written by Ivan Cohen with artwork by Dario Brazulla. So once again, I'm a big fan of these. These are one and done stories. This story is about Catwoman is framed because somebody is being Catwoman is stealing stuff. So she's being framed, and Gordon's going to take her in, but Batman says, hey, I know it's not her. She said she didn't steal it. So it's up to Batman and Catwoman and the mystery gang to solve this. And basically they discover that the Penguin's behind this. And yes, there is a copycat Catwoman. And it's just, once again, these are pretty basic stories. These are written for all ages, but I really like it. Cohen did a nice job of setting up the story. It has a nice flow and everything. And Brazulla's artwork, he's done a lot of these Batman Scooby-Doo books, and he's just really good. He gets kind of that animation style, but he also make sure that it works well as a comic visually. And I really love these books. They're great all ages books. They're great for, anybody. I love them. And, it's something, hey, I can hand it to a kid and they're going to just fall in love with it. These are really great books and definitely well worth buying every month. And, that's going to do it this week. Like I said, still a little bit light this week, but not too crazy. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner, the owner, runs a really great store. He offers discounts on trades and graphic novels every day. He has a great all ages section. Nice manga selection. He also has a local artist for comics and prints and stuff, to really support local creators, which is really great. They do a pull service. If you order enough books, you get a discount on your books. And then that way you don't miss any books, because they have them just set aside for you. But the big key is to make sure that if you've ordered something, pick it up on a regular basis. It's really important that you support your local comic shop. It's really tough out there right now. It's tough everywhere, but I know a lot of comic shops are really struggling. But make sure you pick up your books because they have to pay for them before you do. So just pick them up on a regular basis and don't leave them in the lurch. Because, comic shops are the real backbone of the industry. So you just make sure that you support your local comic shop. And we always end every show with be kind. Be kind to others. It doesn't cost anything. And really be kind to yourself. It's very important. I know things are tough. I get it. I understand it. We're all just squeaking by at a point, but being kind doesn't cost anything, and it can really make somebody's day, and it can make your day too. But being kind is just simple. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's good for you and others. That's going to do it this week. As always, please like, subscribe, and share to our YouTube channel. Comments are welcome. We've seen a lot of new subscribers. Thanks for joining us. And please, if you have comments on stuff, let me know. I'm trying to do this. It's tough with a 9-to-5 job, but we do our books every week because I think comics really, for me, are just really a great release every week. So, thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week with more comic book reviews. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Take care of yourselves and be kind. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.